Okay, so I guess I'm speaking to the only minority leader in Senate history that actually made the motion to adjourn session. It all come down over a thing called the FRA, which, now you stop me if I describe this wrong, is a tax hospitals tax themselves that helps fund things like Medicaid. Mm-hmm. And frankly, the hospitals where I'm from would not exist without it. You got to pass a law to take this money back, and some Republicans want to put some what they consider pro-life measures on there. Now explain to me the problem with that.
Well, I would first disagree. I don't believe they are pro-life measures. I think they're anti-contraceptive measures. There's a clear delineation between what they're trying to do and what they're saying they're trying to do, and they're trying to conflate the two things. Mm-hmm. This is very easily deciphered with the language that we've seen so far. They're trying to make sure that contraceptives are not covered through the Medicaid program. And the bigger problem with that is, if that's not a big enough problem in itself, is the fact that it could question whether or not the feds continue the program. And as you said, we're talking about a $2 billion funding stream from the feds, and also $4 billion total if you count what the hospitals tax themselves at. So we're really taking a huge gamble. The Republican majority has taken a huge gamble by tinkering with this program that has been in effect for decades now, supported by Republicans and Democrats. The governor signed a clean FRA twice already. And now all of a sudden, out of nowhere, this attack on contraceptives is bubbled up for some reason, because, I don't know, maybe they've run out of pro-life things to do, and they're trying to conflate the two.
Do you think there's some political reality to the fact that if you just got elected in 2020, the Republicans have had the majority for 18 years, most of the things you would do from a pro-life standpoint have been done. There are very few abortions in the state of Missouri right now, a minuscule amount. And I know if you're truly pro-life, as many folks are, sure, you want that number to be zero. Yeah. But really, I think you're probably down to so few abortions, and so many of the pro-life measures folks dreamed about 20 years ago have been enacted. Yeah. I think you're running out of some things to do to maybe bolster pro-life credentials.
Yeah, I would agree. I think that they are kind of products of their own success for their own issues. And you know as well as I do that if you are a Republican in the Missouri legislature and you're just coming in, as you stated, you have to check the boxes, right? Mm-hmm. And the boxes you usually check are a pro-life bill of some sort, which there really isn't much room to go there, a pro-gun bill, which we found this past cycle, there isn't much to go there, to a point to where they passed a bill that's unconstitutional. The DOJ has now said that they can't do. And then tax cuts, which we have worked on in past different times, some supported by Democrats the last few years, and there's just not a lot of space in there to, so quote unquote, get your street cred with this new Republican Party, because there just isn't anywhere to go.
I think that is maybe where some of these things come from, is that to move the ball forward. I mean, you've moved it so far on the pro-life side, frankly, because the voters elect overwhelmingly pro-life majorities of this state. I think you're having to come up with some things that unconstitutional, outside the box, whatever you want to say. And really, the FRA was not something that was ever thought of as pro-life or pro-choice. It's kind of been dragged into this debate because I'm not sure there's anything left in the debate.
Yeah, I would agree. They are risking. This is how much we need to really think about the total of this: $4 billion to the state of Missouri over birth control. That's how desperate they are to get their pro-life credibility up in the state of Missouri for this last year. It's absurd to me. I mean, that doesn't just affect women in their birth control issues. If in fact we lose this funding, that's going to affect people with diabetes. That's going to affect people with heart conditions. That's going to affect cancer treatments. That's going to affect a whole variety of issues throughout the state of Missouri, and they're gambling with it. So
I guess maybe it looks to me like the governor's going to come up with a call. You're probably going to be back to work this coming week or the week after. It's probably going to be a call that will allow for some form of some pro-life language to be on this FRA. My question to you is, so they pass this, right? And they send this to Washington, and Washington calls back and says, Governor Parson, you can't do this. Again, frankly, fair enough. And he says, well, we're going to sue you. And Eric Schmidt, I think, would be all too glad to sue over this. Yeah. And the federal government says, okay, sue us. We'll be glad to defend ourselves. And 2 years from now, a judge says you can or can't do this. Yeah. In the meantime, hospitals are open, correct?
I would assume so. That would depend upon the court proceedings. I would also take into consideration the Supreme Court just struck down the challenge that the Attorney General had to Obamacare that he added his name to today. 7-2 to with this quote unquote Trump Supreme Court struck down the lawsuit that different states, including Missouri, had joined into. So this whole back and forth of filing lawsuits and this different types of legislation that they know are unconstitutional to get publicity and move the football forward in their political careers is hurting Missourians, and it's hurting Americans, and it's hurting our whole back and forth that we have in politics. We need to find places where we can work together on things. The FRA had been that thing for decades, and now that has become a political football.
Okay, so the end of session, you were very clear about that you felt the Senate leadership had not kept their word to you. And you had said maybe the last time this happened, which was another kind of a boondoggle of a PQ on a special session last summer, ended poorly. You said maybe we should have brought a little retribution for that as the Senate minority. Coming into this special session, what kind of mood is Senator Rizzo in?
I think that we are adults. I think the Democratic caucus has to be the adults in the room and understand that this is a $4 billion funding source. I also think that we have to do what we need to do to let people know exactly why this is being held up and why we didn't get it passed in special session, and it's because of an extremist subsection of the Republican Party in the Senate that wants to attack women's birth control, and see if we can work from that and maybe change that or do what we can do to make it better. And then at a certain point we'll have to figure out where the caucus is at and how far that they want to push it.